is the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccer Files Canada. This is a short version predicting the starting players of Mali. Here we go. And so we move on to section 3 and the Spotlight Review. But I've been a bit nervous about how to handle this because it's pretty chaotic. So let me just begin by moving the manager position. I think I'm going to talk about the manager at the beginning and at the end here. So I'll just begin by pointing out that manager Mohamed Magasubu, who led them through the through the 2021 African Cup at the beginning of 2022 there, and the two World Cup playoff games, had fairly settled squad, generally the same starters in the same positions, but all of that changed when the new manager Eric Chelle came in, and I will talk about that more at the end. But basically the amount of rotation and players playing in different positions makes it very difficult to predict who's going to be starters, particularly in the attacking end of the field. It's a bit better in the defensive end. Let's begin then. So for that reason, and we'll talk about it more at the end, we're going to put Eric Chelle not as a definite manager, but as the likely manager. It will be late in the game to change it at this point, but we do think there's enough kind of chaos on the squad to suggest that he might be replaced before the tournament comes around. Anyway, for goalkeeper, we have Ismail Diawara. We're going to stick with him as a starter, even though for the last 3 African Cup qualifying games, he was replaced by Djigu Diarra, but he did come back to start the 2 World Cup playoff games in November. So we're going to bet on him as being the starter, but there is an outside chance of Djigu Diarra being the starter. In central defense, again, it's been a little less stable since the new manager has come in. We would have Kiku Kuyate as a definite starter, but he hasn't been starting so much in recent games. Mamadou Fofana and Siku Niakate are the other main candidates, but we have all 3 of them as likely to possible starters rather than being confident that they will be starting there. At the left back position, we have again 2 possible candidates because we're not sure that it will be Masiado Haidara. We think that Amadou Dante has a chance, the newcomer, of taking over the starting position. So we think it might be a rotation between the 2 of them, but I guess we would give the edge to Haidara still there. Right back is a bit more clear. We have Amari Traore as the starter, and we highlight him in green to suggest that we're fairly confident about that. And from here on, central midfield all the way to forward, we are not nominating any candidates because frankly, well, you'll see why we don't think anyone is consistent enough to nominate as a bit of a starter. So in central midfield and in the attacking midfield, that means left winger, right winger, and attacking midfielder. It seems like kind of a massing cloud, a swirling cloud of rotation among all those players: defensive midfielders, central midfielders, attacking midfielders. Really about 7 players, and then a few more besides who pop up again. So we will create a list of those kind of players at the end, but we don't feel confident enough even to say any possible starters there. At the right wing, in central midfield, we do have Mohamed Kamara, Yves Busima, and a couple of other candidates. We will go through them at the end. Aliou Dieng and Cheick Doucouré are probably the four main candidates there. At the left wing, again, Moussa Djenepo seems to be the most likely candidate, but it hasn't started. He's only started about a third of the game, so we can't really put his name as even a likely starter. In the right wing, it's three different players who will meet shortly, and then we had a new player coming in at the end, Fousseyni Diabate, who started 2 of the last 4 games, so really unclear who the starter would be there. Central midfielder, we have players starting here who have also played in other positions, so we think there are a few candidates who are going to be likely starters because they play in different positions. We just can't pin down what position they would be starters in. And finally, in addition to all of that, at the forward line, there are a couple of injury concerns, but again, no players who have started enough for us to think that they would be starters going into this cup. In fact, in the last 2 games, it was 5 different players who appeared in the 3-man and 2-man forward line. So that seems particularly unsettled. So what I've decided to do here is kind of make a list of players who have started about a third to 2/3 of the games, and at least you will know which characters we're talking about. So among defensive midfielders, we have Cheick Doucouré and Aliou Dieng. Cheick Doucouré has started 5 of their 18 games, Aliou Dieng 6. So again, not really enough for us to nominate them as candidates as starters. In central midfield, we have Mohamed Kamara with 10 starts. He's got the most actually, and Yves Bissouma 8 of 18 games that he started in. For left wing or left attacking midfielder, we have Moussa Djenepo with 6 starts and Moussa Doumbia with 5 starts. For the attacking midfield role, Amadou Haidara, Amadou Malouda Traoré and Kamori Doumbia. They have 8 starts for Haidara and 7 starts for the other 2. And then at the top we have Ibrahim Akone with 8 starts, except he is an injury concern, as is Sekou Koita, who we had as a likely candidate, but who was injured for the last cup and looks like he might be injured for this one. In addition to these 11 players, we have probably 8 players who have had maybe 3 or 4 caps who've been in and out. The newcomer we mentioned as right winger, Fousseyni Diabate, as an example of that, who also have a bid of being a starter. So the long and short of it is we don't know. And so we'll go back to talking about the manager. So again, previous manager Mohamed Magasubu had very stable squad. Many of the players in the cup starting in one position for all 4 games. Whereas since Chelle has come in May 2022, it's been very unsettled, especially at the attacking end of the field. And we could just speculate as to why that is. He is not a manager with international tournament experience. He was a player for Mali who played, I think, 6 international games for them, but who has been brought in. And maybe he doesn't really have the authority to meet the demands of the players and is trying to kind of please all of them. It hasn't actually affected their performances that much. They did qualify for this tournament. That they didn't qualify for the World Cup and lost that set with Tunisia in March 2022 is not his fault. That was under the previous manager, perhaps the reason that he was replaced. But in World Cup qualifying, they did suffer a home draw with Central African Republic, so perhaps some of this rotation affecting the squad. I just can't imagine that the players and fans are happy with this, not knowing who's going to start and where they're going to start either. So it'll be interesting to compare them with Tunisia, who they once again meet in the Cup here, having met them at the group stage in the last Cup and in those World Cup 2022 playoff games, because Tunisia is just like Mali was in the previous Cup, very stable squad with players playing in the same position. But I can't help but think it's going to have an effect on Mali. And for that reason, we put Eric Cheli as a likely candidate to reach the Cup, but not as a definite candidate, because we think that is not really a great situation for Mali going into the Cup. Okay, that is the end of the Spotlight review, a bit of a longer one than usual there. If you like what you hear, check out the full version on YouTube or podcast by searching International Soccer Preview.